Susan Schwab knows exactly what's going on inside the room at talks like these, and also what we reasonably can and can't expect to come out of them. Ambassador Schwab is the U.S. trade representative, America's top trade negotiator from 2006 to 2009. She recently was in Beijing for a conference on the competitive threats from state-backed companies in China, the so-called national champions. Another issue sure to come up in these talks. Susan, welcome back to the Inside Track. Let me start by asking you this question. Does the U.S., in your opinion, hope to accomplish anything different in this round of talks, or are the issues the same as before? Market access, rule of law, protectionism, intellectual property, and, of course, the currency.
The issues tend to be the same, but the stakes continue to grow. Both countries have businesses that are making money in each other's markets. Exports are going up in both directions, and yet the political climate, the business climate, is less and less friendly, and I think that is one of the issues being discussed. These talks are not designed, this forum is not designed to have measurable deliverables. It is, however, an opportunity for very senior level officials across a range of fields, a range of ministries, a range of cabinet agencies in the United States to interact. Many of them don't get a chance to interact on a regular basis, unlike, for example, the Vice Premier and the Secretary of Treasury.
Ambassador Schwab, does the U.S. really have any negotiating leverage over China these days, or do the Chinese just sit at the table and listen to what Tim Geithner and others have to say and make their own decisions?
Well, let's face it, both nations make their own decisions, and it's very hard for one country of the size of the United States and the size of China to influence the other in such a direct manner. But yes, we have an influence. We're an extremely large market. We continue to be almost a quarter of global manufacturing, a large market for Chinese products. China would like to be investing more here. China is interested in maintaining a strong bilateral trade investment relationship. We share an interest in a global trading system that is open, and yet we have some serious tensions, and we've heard a lot from U.S. businesses about growing concerns they have about access to the Chinese market, intellectual property protection, government procurement, discriminatory treatment, and as you noted in the previous segment, the promotion of national champions in a way that is discriminatory. So there's a lot for them to talk about. Yes, they try to influence each other. In their words, there's a limit to what they can do in terms of their deeds.
Ambassador Schwab, from the outside, it appears that the U.S. and the G7 as a whole has had difficulty, struggled even really, to persuade China to accept its responsibility or its role in creating global imbalances. Do you perceive that China's position on that front is softening or perhaps hardening?
That's a very good question. I mean, it is very clear that the issue of China's imbalances, well, indeed, all of our imbalances, the U.S. faces its own imbalances, and that's one of the things you can be certain the Chinese are raising. But in terms of making a contribution, whether it's to the trading system, whether it's in their currency policy, the Chinese are under a lot of pressure, not just from the United States, but from developed and developing countries, not just G7. Other developing countries have been very negatively impacted and very vocal, India, Brazil, and others, about China keeping its currency artificially low, running such tremendous current account surpluses, and maintaining the kinds of policies that are not transparent. Now, the Chinese have pledged to address the issue of imbalances, and they would like to see they'd like to be less dependent on exports for growth. They say they want to generate more domestic demand. And I think if you look at their plans, their most recent 5-year plan, that's clearly in there. There's a very serious disconnect in terms of the timing. Their perspective, perhaps, would have this take much longer than the U.S. and indeed a lot of China's trading partners are comfortable seeing.
Ambassador, you described the relationship between China and the U.S. a few moments ago as less and less friendly. Is that at all because of the rise of the so-called princelings in China and the advent of this neo-Maoism? How is that going to affect the dialogue?
Well, I don't know that I would characterize it as less friendly. I do think the relationship is facing far more stress than it has in recent years, and it's sort of ironic because both sides have industries that are flourishing in terms of their bilateral relationships, as it were. But both countries are going through political transitions as well. China has a major transition coming up in 2012. Whether it is the issue of the princelings, whether it is the issue of the bureaucrats, that's a very, very opaque system. And one of the benefits of a dialogue like the strategic and economic dialogue is for U.S. officials and U.S. business leaders, in this case, to get a chance to interact with high-level Chinese officials who may be largely invisible to them on a day-to-day basis.
Ambassador, thank you so much for being here with us. Ambassador Susan Schwab, the former U.S. Trade Representative.